Hey, welcome to NIM's Fairy Tales, Episode 3. I'm your host, James Nim. This is my storytelling podcast where I talk to people about what they used to be. We used to be a functioning country. Nah, not getting into it. This is Episode 3. I'm talking to my friend Trent Ratterree. Say hello, Trent.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Jim. Or James, sorry. I don't ever call you Jim. I don't know why I said Jim.
You can call me Jim.
All right.
I'm named after Jimmy Carter.
Jim Nim.
Jim Nim.
Sorry. I don't know why I did that.
No, it's fine. This is my childhood coming back at me. Today we're talking to Trent. Do you want to just go down a list of things of what you are right now, what you've been doing?
So now I kind of, I do, just most recently I was working for Congresswoman Kendra Horn, but a lot of what I do mainly is in the public sphere, in public policy or government work, and so that's pretty much what I do now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
My relationship to Trent is we are friends. I got drunk with him and sang The Killers at the Blue Note one time. We both won 40 under 40 from the Oklahoma Gazette.
Yep.
And got way too drunk around some really successful people.
Yep.
That's how I know Trent.
That was a really funny story at the 40 under 40 because you, as soon as he handed it to you and they were ready to take a picture, you leapt off the stage.
I kind of remember that. I mean, I remember grabbing the plaque they gave me and putting a beer on top of it and then jamming, like sandwiching a beer in between my chin and that.
That happened too, yes. But you left, and when I say leapt, you leapt off the front of the stage, right in front. So, but that was hilarious.
I hope I gave him some memories.
Ever since then, yeah, we've been friends for sure.
For this episode, we're taking you back to your college days, though, and your days when you used to be tight end for the University of Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I used to be a football player, yeah, and it's been like almost 10 years now. It's kind of weird to say, but I think a lot of people who didn't know me at that time, when they find that out, are a little surprised, just because I think I don't come off as the stereotypical football player, I guess, is what I've been told. And so I don't know what that would be. I don't know what distinguishes me from that. But
honestly, I didn't know anything about when I met you. I didn't know you had played for OU, and you played there when I was in school there. So I was kind of surprised. You're just like, to me, you're just the guy at the bar who like talks about acid or has seen crazy documentaries like Samosara and Baraka, and listens to Bright Eyes, and that's it. I'm a huge Connor Oberst fan, and actually bringing it back to the karaoke night, I don't know if you remember this, but I got really mad because they didn't have Connor Oberst on the karaoke list. I don't remember that at all. What'd you end up singing?
I don't think I sang at all because I was just so mad. I threw a fit. It was like, no, they don't get a song from me at all because I want Connor Oberst.
In the Blue Note.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Okay, so getting into it, how did you get into football, or like have you been playing all your life, or?
Sports with my family, sports was like a really big thing, and so I actually played a lot more basketball than I ever played football. Because with basketball is obviously a lot more accessible than football, because with football you can only play so many games a year. And so in basketball, you could play, I guess, as many games as you wanted. And one thing, I guess I've never really said this, but between 7th grade and my freshman and sophomore year of high school, I played like about 120 basketball games a year.
Yeah.
And basketball was my big thing. But about that time, my sophomore year, I stopped growing at about 6'4".
Yeah.
And I'm no Russell Westbrook, so 6'4" basketball wasn't really going to work for me.
You're like a 6'4" center.
Yeah. And I would foul out a decent amount. And so football, I think, just kind of fit my general it fit me a little bit better, I think, because I was a little bit more physical and and so it was around my sophomore, junior year of high school whenever I realized I think football is going to be the sport I play.
Yeah.
And it's actually really funny because my first day on campus at OU. It was actually somewhat of a tragedy, I guess, in a way, for me, personal tragedy. But I showed up, and you have to do a physical, and the doctor is saying, they run a lot here. And I was like, oh, yeah, I run a lot. And he was like, no, and he, like, put his hand on my shoulder and was like, looked me square in the eye and said, no, they run a lot. And so he was like, do you think you can handle that? And I was like, in my, youthful ignorance, was like, heck yeah, I can.
So this guy was giving you a physical. He just like looked at your body. And it was just like, they run a lot.
Yeah. And I was like, I understand that. But I think he was trying to get through to me that, no, even if you think you've ever ran a lot, they run even more than that. And
yeah.
So, and that was something in my early years at OU that I realized very quickly what he meant. And so it was funny to have that reference point.
Yeah.
Because there were situations where, for instance, we ran a lot of stadiums too. So that's where this story comes in, is we had just finished. And I kind of struggled.
Well, before we continue, I'm going to explain to everybody, like, you were a walk-on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some consider maybe perhaps the greatest walk-on OU has ever seen.
I haven't heard from those people, but I assume they're out there.
I told my friend that I was interviewing you, and he told me to talk to you about some stuff that you're responsible for, one of his favorite plays ever, and we'll probably talk about that towards the end. But yeah, let's. Sorry, I just wanted to describe. Can you describe what a walk-on is first, and then we'll get into that?
So a walk-on is someone who doesn't receive a scholarship, but they can there's kind of two versions of walk-ons. You can be encouraged by the coaches to come and play, where you don't have to as much go through. You still have to go through like a trial period, but not as much of a tryout. And then there's another section of walk-ons that have to go through more of a formal tryout. And so I was more of the one where they encouraged me to come. I didn't have really any other D1 offers. And so I had some opportunities to do a couple sports at some smaller schools, but ultimately, I wanted to play at OU, so the walk-on, being invited to walk-on was a better deal in my mind than taking, going somewhere else and having to play like, 2 or 3 sports. So
yeah,
because I didn't want to do that. But yeah, so I showed up. Walk-ons don't go through summer workouts their first summer, whereas a scholarship athlete, when they're a freshman, they show up on June 1st. And so I showed up August 1st, which is about the time that two-a-days start. And so my first day on campus with the physical and everything, like, we had practice the next day. And so with the doctor implanting that in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what am I getting myself into? And it, later down the road, it became more apparent. But, when I came in, I was smaller, not as strong, as most of the guys that come in on day one. And so workouts, lifting weights, I was at a lower, much lower level than everybody else.
Yeah.
And so I would assume it took the strength coaches a lot more patience to get me onboarded,
just deal with you,
so to speak. Because whereas other guys, here's a reference point, I guess. Like, I remember my first workout, I walked in and Gerald McCoy was finishing up his workout, which, he's still in the NFL, a defensive lineman. And he was curling a bar with 225 pounds on it. And I'm...
With one hand?
2 hands.
Okay, you're just doing like a one-hand motion. I was like, that's like 10 times more than I can do.
No, with 2 hands, but I didn't want to move the mic too much. But and at that point, I dreamed of bench pressing 225 pounds. So it was pretty quick. I quickly realized I'm not there yet, and so
the physician probably should have said we lift a lot here too.
Yeah, he should have told me a lot of things, I think, but unfortunately he focused only on the running. But yeah, it was, and to go back to that is, this was probably a few months later after I first showed up. It was after the first season when I redshirted. and we were in the off season, and we were running stadiums. And I had made it through, and it was like one of the first workouts where I had really made it through in good form, and I was just like so excited. And it came to the end of the workout for the time for the coach to say, all right, and you all put your hands in, it's 1, 2, 3 Sooners, and on 3, and I'm kind of towards the middle, on 3, I just throw up right in the middle of the whole group, and everyone jumps back. And, our strength coach at the time, we would typically get in trouble for that. But I think it was just so hilarious and embarrassing for me that the punishment was just innate in the way that
you can't throw up. The rules, you can't throw up. I mean, I get why that's a rule, but, I can't imagine how you would enforce that on anybody.
Well, he would kick you out of the workout, and you had to come back and do it all over again. So
how can you control that, though? That's, crazy.
I mean, in the workouts he had us doing, it was virtually impossible to not throw up because they're so hard.
Yeah.
And then, and there's pressure, and so there's stress. And for me, the people listening that know me probably know it doesn't take a lot for me to throw up, so especially if I'm anxious. So it's like it was it was like all of the it was like literally structured to make me throw up, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's everything I'm doing right now is for me to throw up. Why did I sign up to throw up? No scholarship, nothing.
Yeah, I just wanted to play football, but apparently they had different views on that. So. But yeah, it was when I first got there. Yeah, I mean, and it was really tough. But the thing about college football is that, it's really hard at first. And then it's like climbing a hill, and once you get closer to the top of that hill, it gets a little bit easier. Like, you feel the pain of what you've been through, but you're stronger for reaching the top of the hill. And then once you're there, you're there. And then the last part of your college career is downhill. And so, not in a bad way, but in a way that's easier.
Yeah.
And your body is there, you're strong, you're capable of playing on that level. And
yeah.
So that's basically what my experience was. So.
Yeah. So you went from a walk-on to playing, playing.
Yeah. So I showed up. They redshirted me my first year. Lucky for me, my coach, his name was Kevin Wilson. He actually coaches at Ohio State now. Lucky for me, he was a walk-on when he played in college at North Carolina. And so I think he had he must have had, benefit of the doubt or a sweet spot, so to speak. And
this kid's like me.
Yeah.
I'll introduce him to my daughter.
Well, I mean, anyway, I met his daughter, but she was much younger. So
okay,
it was not a little thing like that. But anyway, so he gave me an opportunity, even in that first 2 days that I showed up to prove myself. And I think in that first 2 days, more than any other time at OU, I got extremely lucky and just happened to do a good job. And so I kind of proved myself going forward. And, and then when the time came, a year or two later, some guys got hurt that were ahead of me that were fantastic players, and we just didn't really have very many other bodies to put in there. And so I was called on, and whenever I got my opportunity in the game, I did well. And that actually, seizing that opportunity came from something my brother used to tell me, is that you don't get a lot of opportunities in sports. And so when you do get one, you have to take advantage of it, and you have to take advantage of it in a way that proves that it's harder for them to not play you than it is to continue to play you. And so I feel like the first opportunity I got, I kind of proved that point of I did well enough that they continued to play me, and it was a harder decision to keep me off the field.
Yeah, I love that. That's classic Rudy shit, or I don't know.
It really is.
Jeremy Lin is like that. I don't know. You're the closest thing I know to Jeremy Lin right now. So. And
it's funny you say that because a lot of us in athletics, regardless of the sport, I think sports gives you an opportunity to, because it's one play, or it's this, and you just see it and you make a play, and I think that's the cool thing about sports is, that can be taken and correlated to life is that, you get these opportunities, and if you squander them, they're going to run out eventually, but it's like
easy Eminem.
Yeah.
I love it though. Speaking of like one play, I'm gonna like there's specifically one story that like specifically called you on to talk about. But before I get to that one, my friend Michael Kimball is a big sports fan. He used to be a journalist for OU Daily.
Mm-hmm.
He says you're responsible for one of his favorite plays in OU football of all time. Do you know which play I'm going to bring up?
I'm assuming what it is.
I'll give you a hint. Was it Bedlam?
Yeah,
okay.
I think, yeah.
No, you're right.
Unless it's a different one.
No, I'm just such a bad OU fan that we're coming off the beating Texas yesterday after that quadruple OT, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So in my brain, I thought it was against Texas, but if it's against Bedlam,
yeah,
correct me if
it was
I'm
against OSU.
Okay,
yeah.
So
the play I think he's talking about is it was my sophomore year. We'd had a really rough season. Just a backstory quickly. I think we had 5 losses that season. So it was, and we had Sam Bradford returned from winning the Heisman. He got hurt game 1 before halftime. Jermaine Gresham was back. He got hurt. We had a lot of people hurt. Trent Williams, he got drafted really high. And so, wow, that looks good.
I got a chicken sandwich, everybody. That's why Trent said that.
Anyway, sorry. But anyway, so yeah, we get to Bedlam. OSU's ranked higher than us, and we didn't really have a shot at the Big 12 championship that year. It was a rebuilding year. Anyway, so we're beating them, actually, and we were an underdog in this game. And we're winning 27-0, and we're trying to run the clock out. And our running back fumbles the ball. And, and then an OSU guy picks it up, and he has a clear field running forward. There's no one in front of him. And, if he had scored, we wouldn't have won the game. Or they wouldn't have won the game. It was out of reach. But yeah. With it being the rivalry, and I had some personal touches with OSU in high school through the recruiting process, and I felt like wasn't treated the way I deserved to be. So I took it upon myself I ran him down, and I took the ball from him. And then it was just enough time where all we had to do is take a knee and end the game, and we shut him out.
Yeah, that's my friend Michael Kimball's favorite play in college football history. He's a big OU fan, obviously. Yeah. And his favorite play is responsible because you did it. And he just says it's the saltiest play in OU football history. It's like so petty, and I love it.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to let you know that you guys still got some fans out there.
I am a Scorpio, and so I think being slighted as a recruit was certainly running through my mind whenever I was like, I have to stop this guy from scoring. And so it made me feel really good about it, just because I know they thought they were going to score, and it maybe would have been, I don't know if I would use the term moral victory, but it maybe would have made them feel a little bit better about the game. It did. But somehow that's probably the fastest I've ever ran in my life. And so, but I chased him down, and actually it's really funny. I stripped it, and it started bouncing away. And I don't know if the video's out there, but if anyone watches it, I'm like punching the ground because I'm like, damn it, I wanted to get the ball back. And an OSU player actually kicks it, and it bounces off someone's hip and lands right back in front of my face. And so all I had to do was just grab it, and I was already on my knees.
I thought you were saying you're like, I haven't seen the video, so in my brain you're doing something superhuman and just punching the ground and shaking the ground enough until the ball falls back to you. I was like, whoa, yeah. Trent's so strong.
Yeah. I basically, it's like a Thor thing. Just vibrated the ground enough but it was a good play, and I think that was our last regular season game, and so it was just like a way to cap the season on like a pretty high note. And I think it was probably I know it was the first and probably the only game ball I ever got at OU, and which is funny because I was an offensive player. I never got an offensive game ball.
Yeah.
I only got a defensive game ball. And so it's just kind of a funny thing, and it's something that people do bring up sometimes, But.
Yeah. I'm glad I got to talk to you about it because I'm such a bad fan. I was uneducated even going into this podcast. Going into what I actually wanted to talk to you about is like probably less glamorous, and I don't even know how to start this story. So I'm just gonna ask you to. It's the stairmaster story, by the way.
Oh goodness!
Okay, sorry.
All right. Okay, I'll tell a second throw up story then.
Yeah.
Oh shoot! Spoiler alert! Sorry.
That's okay.
So going back to kind of how my primer on my showing up at OU was, that it was extremely difficult, and but there were times early where there were adjustments to you, because when you come in from high school, you're adjusting not only to the football side of it, but also just being a student too. And so there was a day where, regretfully, I overslept my alarm, and the punishment for missing a workout or being late is you have to do the stairmaster for 30 minutes at minimum. Depends on really how mad they are. It could be an hour.
Yeah.
They gave me 30 minutes because, like I said, I had a lot of growing to do.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I'm on the stairmaster, and after I had to do the whole workout and then get put on the stairmaster afterwards.
Yeah. So how long is the workout?
Like an hour or so, hour and 15, and then 30 minutes of stairmaster after that.
Yeah.
And I think it was leg day, so it was even worse for me. And so I'm up there, and I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad, 5 minutes go by, and basically I'm like, coach, I yell at the strength coach, and I'm like, hey, I have to throw up. I don't want to throw up all over the stairmaster. So he's like, all right, get down. I'm like, all right. So pauses it. I go throw up. Get back on. And then I'm like, all right, I'm good. I just need, it's my second wind. Although it's 30 minutes and I'm only like 7 minutes in.
Yeah.
Hopefully ideally my second wind would come.
I don't know.
later.
I've never been on a stairmaster, so I don't know how hard it is.
Well, so the level they would put us on, I think it was like level 12, which is just an arbitrary number, but it's like the same as, it would be like climbing the entire Empire State Building like 1.5 times.
Oh, Jesus.
If the stairs were also resisting you too.
For 30 minutes.
Yeah. And so, so this happened a couple times, and it basically went to the point where he was like, if you get down again, you have to start over.
So how many times did you throw up?
Oh, I'll just say a handful, maybe 2 or 3, somewhere in between 2 or 3 to a handful, probably. And
I don't know why I'm so obsessed with throw up stories. I'm sorry I brought you on this podcast. You just talk about how many times you've thrown up.
It's okay. No, and it's this.
Hey guys, this is Trent Ratterree. He's a really prestigious person who fights for education in Oklahoma. He's worked for Kendra Horn. This is how many times he's thrown up.
He's thrown up all over OU. Chances are, if you went to school at OU between 2007 and 2011, you walked over a pile of my throw up. So.
Jesus.
I'm kidding. But it's so. He's like, you can't get down again, and I'm like, and in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't want to restart because at this point, time has elapsed, and I have, roughly 10 minutes left, which is, it's like, well, I don't want to start over, it's almost over, and so I keep going, and I'm just like really holding it in, and it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, I can't hold it in anymore, and I just want people to think about it, like. I can't get down. I can't I can't. I'm not a dead eye with my throw up, so I can't just shoot it into a receptacle. So what do? And I can't throw up on the machine because if I do that, they're going to start me over.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
I had no other option, and so I had to I just took my thumb and my forefinger and pulled my shirt over my nose, and because I'm dripping with sweat, I'm covered in water, know. I figured, it's 6 to 1, half a dozen the other. No one's going to notice, right?
Yeah.
And so I just did that, and I was like, oh, I'll get away with this, and then and also I've been through the ringer of workouts, so I'm obviously, I think people can tell by the details of the story, I'm not thinking exactly rationally. And so I did that. And
Is your jersey tucked in?
Well, I did happen to tuck my shirt in.
So it's just going to catch anything. Okay,
well,
that's kind of smart.
At this point, there was nothing really to catch. It was like just water, basically. And so I thought I got away with it, and I get down, I finish, clean off the thing, and I cleaned it thoroughly because considering the details, right? And I'm walking out the door, and the coach says, "Hey, what's that green stripe on your shirt?" Because we had white shirts.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I just ducked out the door and literally sprinted back to the locker room because I was like, I am not restarting this. I'm not doing this again. They can chase me if they want. And so that was my early experience at OU was a lot of that. It was a struggle. If I was at a dinner party, that's how I would probably phrase it. It was a struggle, but if with a crowd that really wanted to hear more of the details, this is the story that is hidden in just that single word.
What was OU like? It was a struggle.
It was a struggle. And if anybody ever hears me say that again, that's what I'm talking about.
It was 10 stories like this. It was like...
Oh, there's plenty more, but I think 2 is my max.
Yeah, that's fair. I think maybe I hit my limit on that too. I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I do have another funny story that comes from that. So that the same year of the OSU story, I met Jim Harbaugh, actually.
Famous quarterback. One of my dad's favorite quarterbacks.
Yeah. And now head coach of Michigan. But at the time, he was the head coach of Stanford. And we were about to play them in the Sun Bowl. And when you go to bowl games, they make you have dinner together as teams. It's
like
really weird.
Opposing teams have to eat with together?
Yeah, like in a banquet hall, basically.
Yeah.
It's really weird. But Stanford guys, they were nice. So this was one of the more normal ones.
Yeah.
I assume because they're at Stanford and they're probably really smart. And so.
Yeah, it's like.
But.
Not those like barbarians from Texas.
Well, so I, as a kid, I liked Jim Harbaugh. And I had his, they used to sell those, they're like football player action figures. And they're like
Todd McFarlane stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like,
The comic book nerd in me knew exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah. And I had a Jim Harbaugh one. And so I'm walking out of the dinner, and I'm just minding my own business. And I look next to me. Well, actually, someone taps me on the shoulder. And I turn around. And it's Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
He's standing here. And I'm like, oh, cool. And he's like, he's looking for a coach, one of our coaches. I guess he knew him from the past or something. I don't know. And I was like, oh, Coach Harbaugh, while I have you here, I thought this was funny. I would tell you, when I was a kid, I had your little football action figure guy. I was a huge fan. I thought you were a great quarterback. And he just looks at me, furrows his eyebrow, and walks off.
He didn't say anything?
He didn't say anything.
I thought you were talking shit.
He did like a Larry David stare into my eyes. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And so he taps my teammate, which was, we were close friends. We hung out all the time.
Yeah.
And he asked him the question. Well, my teammate had overheard. And he saw, I was just like, it didn't hurt my feelings, but I was kind of disappointed, and he could tell I was kind of just like deflated.
Yeah.
And so my teammate's like, you know what? Fuck you.
You said that to Jim Harbaugh? That's awesome.
And then Jim gets mad, and he just storms off. And I was like, dude, thanks. Like, I appreciate that. And my friend, and he's like, yeah, man, I'm not going to let him talk to you like that. You just wanted to say, that you appreciated him. And I was like, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So that's that was one of the things that.
Did we beat them that game?
Yeah, and then we beat them. It was one of my best games at OU, too.
Fuck Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah. I wish we'd played more people that like created had interpersonal slights with me because apparently I play really well against them.
Maybe I'll name this episode Trent Ratterree. I used to kick the shit out of Jim Harbaugh.
But and I've met a few other famous people, and I guess apparently I have this knack for saying like the one thing they absolutely don't want to hear.
Yeah.
And so Jim Harbaugh was the first one, so I was like, what did I say? And it's like, in hindsight, yeah, he probably thought I was messing with him. But, I've met a few other people that are kind of famous, moderately famous, I would say.
Yeah.
And I ended up saying something similar. I didn't have their action figure, obviously, but
I wished it was just you having their action figure.
I had a knack for like saying the one thing that would make them like walk away. So that could be a good thing in some cases. But
yeah, keep it in your pocket.
Yeah. But when we were talking about it, talking about the podcast before, I was like, I've never told this story before, and so I
got some exclusives here.
To squeeze it in.
This is like real journalism, folks.
Yeah, it really is.
I don't know. I don't really have any more questions for you. I really appreciate what all you've done, all the things you fought for in the city, and yeah, I like your work and stuff.
Thanks. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate being able to be on the podcast and share my stories. So.
Yeah, I hope this literally this podcast is for me during the quarantine, just to talk to people outside my house. And if this podcast sucks, I'm sorry, but this is the only reason it exists. But hopefully it doesn't suck, and you've enjoyed every one of these. And thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Trent Ratterree. I'm James Nim. Come check us out again. Peace.